According to the New York Times, in 7 states in the U.S., atheists are banned from holding office because they're atheists. Now, this is something we've spoken about before. Those states are Maryland, Arkansas, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas. Now, in 1961, the Supreme Court invalidated those laws and said they're unconstitutional, and they are unconstitutional today. But nonetheless, they remain on the state books. So another example of this is how the Supreme Court ruled, I believe it was in the 1980s, which is really late for what I'm about to tell you, that states cannot ban sodomy. So states cannot ban oral and anal sex because it's unconstitutional to ban those things. But a lot of conservative states just left those laws on the books. So it still says in the state law books, even though the law is invalidated, that sodomy is illegal, even between married people. Like, whenever you mention that, people naturally believe, well, they're doing that to target gay people. Well, yes and no. They are targeting gay people, but that also applies to, straight married couples. So if the judge in the town is getting a BJ from his wife, if somehow the cop sees it through the window and then beats off to it and then knocks on the door, he goes, "You're under arrest for violating this very serious law." I mean, what a comical country we are. People in general, there's a lot of countries that have laws like that. I mean, how fucking stupid are people? God, that's so stupid. God, that's so stupid. In the 1980s was when they were like, okay, that you can't do that. That's so recently. So like in 1957, the thought of a BJ was like, oh, we can't do that. Goodness gracious. Repressive, puritanical bullshit is what it is. But I got sidetracked here. Let me get back to where I was. So the laws still remain on the books that say atheists can't run in those places. But now representatives from a group called Openly Secular, which represents atheists, agnostics, humanists, and non-religious people, they're currently meeting with legislators in those states and trying to eliminate the laws. And here's the crazy thing. Even though it's unconstitutional, as recently as 2009 in North Carolina, somebody invoked the law to try and stop an atheist from running. That's amazing. In 2009, an atheist was trying to get some sort of office, and people stepped up and said, no, we're not going to let you get it, and it's because you're not religious. Land of the free, right? Land of the free. So listen to this. I love this point that the group made. They said, quote, if it was on the books that Jews couldn't hold public office or that African Americans or women couldn't vote, that would be a no-brainer. You'd have politicians falling all over themselves to try to get it repealed. Even if it was still unenforceable, it would still be disgraceful and be removed. So why are we different? That's such a great point, and it never occurred to me. And the answer is very simple. The only reason why it hasn't been taken off the books and people aren't outraged by it is that the general population really doesn't like us. They don't. So the most recent polling data suggests that up to 20% of the American people are non-religious. Now, let me be specific and let me be crystal clear about that, because that doesn't mean that 20% of people are atheists. It means that 20% of people say they're not part of an organized religion. They're not part of a specific religion. So in that 20%, you have people who are deists, who believe in a god, but just not the god of any particular religion. You have people who have spiritual-ish beliefs, new age spiritual stuff, kind of like Deepak Chopra and kind of metaphysical stuff like that, but not really defined. So that 20% includes all those people. When you narrow it down to people who would actually self-describe as atheists, I am an atheist, that number is like anywhere from 3% to about 7%, depending on what poll you look at and what poll you believe. So we are a tiny, tiny percentage of the population, and consistently in different polling research, we find that atheists have the lowest favorability in the country. So in other words, if you ask people, what kind of person would you vote for atheist is always at the bottom. Muslim is above us. Gay person is above us. People associate atheism with immorality, and they associate atheism with nihilism. They associate it with this idea that you don't believe in right and wrong, and you don't believe in justice, and you don't believe in basic things like don't murder, don't steal. That's what many people think when they hear about atheists. And what this story reminds me is it's a kick in the ass, because it says people are not part of our bubble. So if you're listening to this show, you're likely non-religious. I mean, we have plenty of people who are religious who listen, and they agree more with me politically. But a lot of people listening to the show right now are non-religious. And the problem is we're too deep in our own bubble. We're up our own asses, where we think, well, people clearly agree with us because we make sense and we're rational. Yeah, but they don't. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they don't really know any atheists. People aren't brave enough to tell people that they're atheists. And people don't really explain in an understandable way why they believe what they believe, and that we're not the boogeyman, and you don't need to fear us, and we still believe in morality. We still believe in do unto others as you would like done unto yourself. So what we need to do, I think, is evangelize. That's why I always found it hilarious when people argue that fundamentalist atheists are just as bad as fundamentalist Christians. Complete nonsense, because when we stand up and we argue for something, what are we arguing for? Rationality. We stand up and we argue for science. We stand up and we argue for humility. For people to say, hey, if you don't know about what happens when you die and if there's a God and the specifics about it, just say you don't know. We're all in the same boat together. Just be honest about the reality and the nature of life and this world that we live in. So we need to stand up and say we are the people who are right. We are the people who are being humble. We are the people who are more open-minded, and don't look down on us like we're doing something wrong, because if anybody's doing something wrong, it's you guys. As evidenced by this, that in 7 states, we're still openly discriminated against on the books.